So here's a really cool part, Richard. So far it's been working. Okay, I've got my fabric that I had the interfacing fused to, right? On top of that, I cut out a piece of the Pellon from the master pattern, and I laid that on top. This is, you got to use your imagination here. And so I've got my fabric. Pretend like this isn't turned. And here's my Pellon 72F. Laid it on top. This was cut from the master pattern. Covered it over, because remember this side is also fusible. Covered it with the parchment paper, and I fused it. I think I held it down for like 10, 12 seconds, something like that. I let it cool, and what's so cool about the parchment paper is the fusible webbing won't stick to it. So after it's cooled off, all you have to do is pull it off. Alright? Okay. Next thing I did was, I thought, okay, well guess what? This is fusible, and I needed to turn the edges. So I very carefully took my regular iron and turned off the steam or you'll burn your fingers like I did. And I very carefully turned the fabric using my iron, my hot iron. And I could have left myself a whole lot more fabric, and I wouldn't have had to be so careful about, not letting the iron touch the fusible right here. Would have been a whole lot easier, but I didn't think about that till I already had it cut. And I just very carefully turned it, and using the hot iron, and I turned it that way. Works pretty good, don't you think? So this is what we have so far. Works great. Another thing that I'm trying is, on yours, you cut the pattern apart, and you know what you did, and then you top stitch along here after you put them back together. So what I'm going to try to do is, I took the pattern and I marked where the bottom of the bag would be, and I marked it with a green line, took it to my sewing machine, and I stitched the lines. And hopefully that will, because I know what you want, and you're wanting it to bend right there. And I may have to go over it another time or two, some heavier thread. I like to use invisible thread whenever I'm stitching. If it's not for strength, it doesn't really matter, but I think I'm going to go back and use some fuchsia thread, regular thread, and go back over this. So that's where we are so far. So I didn't have to use any glue, didn't have to use anything but this fusible stuff, but the trick is to use the parchment paper and it won't stick to it. Also, of course I'm going to top stitch around this before it's all put together, and I can do the same thing, and I've got to recut this because I didn't cut it, I turned my edges under too big, but you can see I can go back and I can iron this down. I've got the edges turned under and stitched. Like I said, I'm going to make a new one because this isn't quite big enough, duh. But I can iron it down because it still has the fusible right here. It's still sticky. And that'll hold that in place while I make the rest of the bag. Anyway, I just wanted to share that with you. That's where I'm at so far. And, of course, I've got to be sure to turn these edges under. When I top stitch, I'll catch that so it'll all look nice and neat from the outside. And I think I might want this to be just a little stiffer. So I think what I'm going to do is take some of the chipboard that I used on the other bag, and I can actually, I'm not sure if I can fuse this from the other side to the chipboard. I may try that, I don't know. I may just leave it like it is here and put a piece of chipboard in the bottom. Anyway, that's where I'm at, and I just wanted to share that with you. I tried to write it out, so I thought maybe it'd be easier to explain it in a video. So I'll send this to you. Bye.